Welcome to the inaugural episode of These Truths, a walk through American history using the text These Truths, A History of the United States by historian Joe Lepore. First question that ought to be asked is, why do this? And I think that Lepore answers this question in her introduction when she says that when you understand your history, you actually unlock the present. This is a great truth about history. Everyone loves history. There are no exceptions to this. Everyone loves history. Now, they may not like American history, and they certainly may not have liked their history class when they were in school, but everybody wants to know what happened in the past for those things that they love so that they can understand what those things mean today. And so I think Lepore is really kind of brilliant when she says that this is a way, our studying the United States is a way to get to know who we are. Well, that means we probably ought to take a look at who Lepore is. She's a Harvard professor. She is a New Yorker writer. Her first textbook was on a brutal war in colonial America called King Philip's War. And it won the Bancroft Prize, which is a big deal. So right out of the gates, this young scholar is proving to be really important. And as her career continues, she continues to be really important. There are a lot of things that Lepore tells us she wants to do with this book. She says that she wants us to understand America from the age of Columbus to the present day. Now, the book was written in the 20-teens, so it's not going to encompass all of today. But she does it really with a very different viewpoint. The way this book is structured, it has 4 sections. One is called the idea, and then one is called the people, one is called the state, and the final section is called the machine. This is really unusual. If you were to look at other American textbooks, you'd find everything is set up chronologically, and you get eras: the Jeffersonian era, the Jacksonian era, the Reconstruction era, the Progressive era, and it would give you all of that. Instead, Lepore divides things into this idea, which takes place from 1492 to 1799, and then the people, which is her overview for 1800 to 1865. And then the state is 1866 to 1945, and then the machine is 1946 to 2016. The driving principle for Lepore, as she states in her introduction, is that the Declaration of Independence states something really revolutionary and new, and that the Constitution is then created in order to make that revolution happen. She tells us in the introduction that prior to the Declaration of Independence, there really isn't any place like the United States. Things happen by chance and by violence. Now, that's not to say there isn't violence in American history. There's certainly a ton of it. And we'll cover some of it in the upcoming episodes of this YouTube video and podcast. But what she says is that the chance, violent, familial, accidents of history that define so much of humanity. After Jefferson's Declaration of Independence that says that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the world changes, because no longer will the accidents of family and might drive a government, but rather the ideals of the Enlightenment will create a government. And so she says that what she's going to do in this book is to show us how the Declaration of Independence becomes the Constitution. And then I should restate that. The Declaration of Independence inspires the Constitution. We have to find a way to govern ourselves so that we can make these ideals realistic. In fact, she says that her book could double as a civics book as well as a history book. And so she wants us to see this uniqueness. Now, I'll also say a couple of other things about the book and about Lepore. Lepore, you might have guessed, Harvard and the New Yorker. She has a left-leaning bent, and she's been criticized by some conservative scholars about that. I hope during the course of this series that we'll be able to talk a little bit about this liberal conservative bias, because it's infected all angles of our history, of our country, and so history shouldn't be an exception to that. Her book was, by and large, well reviewed. It's new for a textbook to come to the fore. Most textbooks used in colleges and universities were written decades ago, and new scholars have taken up the mantle of that particular book. They tweak, they modify, they add. Lepore came in and said, I'm going to do something entirely new. Another thing that's different about this book is that it is not filled with the kind of artwork that you're likely to see in other college texts. Yes, there are photographs. Yes, there are occasional maps. Yes, there are renderings of things. But by and large, she allows her text to do the talking. And this brings me to two things. First, it's the text itself that she writes. She's very poetic in her writing. This is something I really love about the book. She's a fine writer. This is not her first bestseller. She's done others. Her writing with the New Yorker also has been well received. She's a good writer. But she also says, and I love this part of the introduction, she says that as she is conveying history to us, she wants as much as possible to let the historical figures speak for themselves. She likens her penchant of including direct quotes in the original to pressing things into a book for preservation. And she says sometimes what we are preserving is beautiful, like pressing a flower in between the pages of a book. And sometimes, she says, it's kind of hideous, like pressing an insect and saving the insect for ages and ages to come. So I hope you'll join me on a trip through American history in this text, These Truths, by noted Harvard historian Jill Lepore. Until next time, this is John Mercer saying, these truths are self-evident.